a lot of the new material that's getting created artistically and in a scholarly sense is being created electronically to begin with. It doesn't exist on paper, doesn't get published in magazines anymore, only gets published on the web or published in electronic form of some sort. And so we're in danger of losing all of that if we don't solve this problem.
The New York home of the Voyager Company, a leading producer and publisher of electronic books. Here, the creative possibilities of digitization are very exciting and immediate, while future preservation and access issues are a more distant concern.
What you'll be able to do is access a movie, which would be through this mirror. There'll be a timeline, a map of where Dracula exists.
What I'm working on is called Witness to the Future. It's a CD about environmental activism. What I have to do before I give everything to my programmer is make sure all the content is correct and everything's laid out, so all the graphics are fixed and everything.
I can't imagine that anything that we are making today will be available 100 years from now. I don't even think it'll be available 25 years from now. In fact, a lot of stuff that we made 7 or 8 years ago can't be played. I mean, there are two problems. One is the durability of the media itself, and the other is the machines that they play on. And nobody really knows how long the media will last, although our indications are that entropy takes over fairly quickly, and these things have a tendency to degrade much faster than anybody, at least in the companies that makes them, is willing to predict. And the second problem, though, is that the machines go out of style. And nobody bothers at the time to sort of make a translation program. And if you go out 100 years from now, the possibility that somebody will, have remembered to make a machine that runs Microsoft Windows 2.2, it's impossible. It won't happen.
Each of the media seems to be racing the others towards obsolescence as fast as it can. And in a sense, that's because they're each trying to improve as fast as they can. And so the new versions come faster and faster, and new versions make the old versions obsolete and unreadable. So it's a natural process, but it's one that we have to recognize is not helpful from a preservation point of view.
We get stuff that's 3 years old now, outdated. We pick up scrap computers from many companies in this valley, National Semiconductor, LSI Logic, Cypress Semiconductor. I mean, the list goes on, but I don't want to mention my customers. I have competition.
That's a good chip.
I estimate about $300 million for this load of mainframes is what they paid for them. And they're outdated in 8 years.
Computers were created essentially to service giant organizations, and they were tended by a sort of a priesthood of technicians. But once computers went from being something that exclusively belonged to large organizations to something that served and belonged to individuals, a tremendous amount of translation, psychological and sociological translation needed to be done. What I did was translate some of the ideas that belonged to the priesthood of technicians and made it accessible and usable to civilians, to ordinary people.
As more and more information is stored electronically, we are increasingly vulnerable at any time to catastrophic loss.
I have a PowerBook, the 5300, and it was supposed to be the latest, newest model, and apparently it had some problems in its development, and the logic board cracked, and shortly thereafter I lost my hard drive and everything, my world.
When computers crash, all is not always lost. There are professionals who specialize in recovery, in breathing life back into fragile, intricate disk drives, just long enough to coax off and capture the data.
Crash is where the drive doesn't work anymore. A crash can be a multiple of different things, though. A crash can be where the head actually makes contact and starts scraping off the medium that's on the platter that holds the data. That's the disk right there. That's the metal that the data is saved to. Now we're going to show you where we are magnifying onto each track. See these lines? There's sectors where data is kept, like a filing cabinet. It's kept in a particular spot. The data is stored in between these marks, and everyone has an address or an identification. If the data is all scraped off or gone, there's nothing we can do. But if there's something on that, in that device that we can get to, we get to it within about a 95% ratio.
From cafes and offices to homes, libraries, and schools, people are rushing to embrace not only computers, but also the network of networks connecting it all, the World Wide Web, a technology of which it's been said, the only thing it changes is everything.
People go online, they play with aspects of themselves, they express pieces of themselves that they're not always aware that were even there. It's like Cyrano de Bergerac finding in the virtual reality of writing something about himself, a capacity for love and passion that he didn't even know was there. People are discovering that online.
That's a great place to meet people. Playing with this website.
We're talking about fundamental infrastructural changes in our society with this new electronic technology. So it's not any one particular application and so on. It is just a fundamental new kind of wiring for our society. Like 100 years ago, we put in the electricity system. We put in the telephone system and so on. Those completely transformed how we lived. Today, we're moving into that same kind of almost punctuated evolution to the infrastructure, having now to do with things like the World Wide Web that absolutely transform our ability to connect to others, our ability to basically view all the information in the world in one kind of homogeneous type of access structure and form.
It was a combination of the web, the browsers, and the underlying internet that existed for 15 years, which created what we now see as the web browser phenomenon that everyone is using. There's so much talk today about technology leading to unemployment and causing difficulty that I think we forget that technology is humanity's child. We have created it. To love it is to love ourselves. And second, it does help us.
The web was the creation of a young British scientist, Tim Berners-Lee. Now, as director of the consortium controlling the web, he works from his office at MIT to try to guide its future. A future which, by redefining what we mean by documents, has greatly complicated the obligation to preserve.
If you remember the world before the World Wide Web, it was a question of getting information from one place to another by tracking down a group of experts who could log on to the right computer, find out how to extract the information from the relevant program, how to put it onto a floppy disk, then how to read the floppy disk on your own computer, then what to do with the data when you've got it. All this was a question of conversion and incompatibility, and the world was full of incompatibility. It was incompatible because a lot of the formats were proprietary formats owned by one manufacturer to which another manufacturer would not commit. So in order to get the interoperability, you have to have open standards. That was the way I saw it.